Good evening. Confirm audio and video. Audio check. Hi, good evening. So we will first complete all varieties of questions. I have a collection 20 questions. 2 we have already solved. So 18 questions we have in all. This is part of the intro session we had yesterday. We have talked about the exam pattern, cutoffs, what to read from, how to read, how much time to spend, with what accuracy, how many questions should you solve to cross different percentiles. That was our discussion in the last session. I even read for you part of an article and told you how to focus on information, how to summarize information. So today we are going to solve maybe a couple of para computation questions like this one, para summary, para jumble, and reading comprehension questions. So there's a question on the screen for you. Take 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, comment your answers. Habit क्या होना चाहिए? First you read from the first alphabet till the last option, non-stop. थोड़ा brisk pace maintain करते हुए. Second time when you're reading, first time when you're reading, you've understood maybe 40%, 50% of the passage and information. Second time, slow down a little bit and try to catch information, grab hold of information, and then go for answers. What is this? This is completing the paragraph. Completing the paragraph in the most appropriate way. Go ahead, give it a shot. 2.5 minutes you have. Milega. You'll have enough time, don't worry. That is why I said the first reading has to be fast. I'll tell you, I'll show you how to read. You don't have to go into details. There is too much to comment in this novel, a witty parable of India's changing society, yet there is much to ponder. The scales have fallen from eyes of some Indian writers, many either living abroad or educated like Adiga. The home country is invariably presented as place of brutal injustice or sordid corruption. यहाँ तक भी पढ़ लिया to understand what is going on. One author is talking about some novel, a novel which is written by outsider about his country. यहाँ तक भी पढ़ लिया, it is more than enough to understand what the passage is about. And from there you can reread. I have read till this point. It gave me idea what this whole thing is about. If you feel you're going to read from here to here thoroughly and then mark the answer, many times you will get stuck in the question or your ego will come into the play. मैंने तो पढ़ लिया, I'll mark the answer. I understood this is about the author reviewing someone's work. So that gives you an overview. किस बारे में है ये? Very fast. I hardly would have taken 10 seconds to reach here. आरसी तो बेटा 2 बार पढ़ना ही पड़ता है कैट का, from starting to end. Once you read everything, then you go to question, then sometimes you have to come back and read again. Or make very good notes. Note taking will also slow you down. Comment your answers. Comment your answers. Very good. Very good. Very good. Chalo. There is much to comment. See, if you are one of those people, you have very good focus, you read it once thoroughly, make notes, and go for questions. A paragraph is given below from which the last sentence has been deleted. From the given options, choose the one that completes the paragraph in the most appropriate way. So para completion. You must follow, or you must continue the main idea, you must continue the tone, you must contradict, you must not assume anything from outside. You can introduce small element of new information, but not something drastic. There is much to comment in this novel. When somebody says, I'm going to comment this novel, I'm going to praise, the assumption is novel pada hoga. It is his opinion. There is much to comment in this novel. I have read the novel, I'm commenting it. How am I commenting? How am I praising it? A witty parable of India's changing society. So it is giving me, in a funny way, it is telling about how Indian study is changing. Yet means change of tone. Yet it will be cautionary. It will be probably opposite of what was said. There is much to ponder. Ponder, think seriously, contemplate on something. The scales have fallen from eyes of some Indian writers. It says some Indian writers, not all. Scales have fallen. When scales are fallen, as in you come to see what really is there. Scales have fallen. They had a different thought about something. The scales have fallen. They are now open to reality. Many either living abroad or educated, they're like Adiga. Adiga may or may not be living abroad. It says or educated like Adiga. So these people are out of India or whatever the country that is. Here it says India. So out of India, they have either got their education or they are living there. The home country is invariably presented as place of brutal injustice, sordid corruption. By these people, it does not say Adiga karta aisa. It says people who are residing outside India, have studied outside India. They are representing the country invariably, without any change, without any variation. A place of brutal injustice and sordid corruption. So the author is saying other authors have very negative view of their country, even though the veil is falling down. One in which poor are always dispossessed, victimized by the age-old enemies, the rich. That is again that same commentary that we used to see in 1970s, 1980s movies. Poor people are victims, and rich are the oppressors. Characters at the colorful extremities of society are Dickensian. Some Charles Dickens की बात कर रहा है. Grotesque. Piz sketches. Adrift in country that is lurching rapidly towards bland middle class normality. मेरे को आखिरी नहीं समझा. I'll read one more time. Characters at colorful extremes. Extremes as in too rich, too poor, too drama, too insensitive. Extremes in either way. Characters in books. So this is how Dickens used to write his books. Grotesque. Books were grotesque. And there must be somebody named Fizz. I do not know who that is. His sketches. Sketches could be a drawing. Sketch could also be small plays. Adrift in a country that is lurking rapidly. So I'm going to complete this. So how does the information flow? Author starts by telling me his opinion about work of Indian authors. They are now seeing India in a new way, but they represented India or the country itself where brutal injustice is there, corruption is there, and so on, so on, so on. So here it is all negative. It started positively, then negative. So I'm going to complete this. My hunch is this is fundamentally an outsider's view and a superficial one. There are so many alternative Indias, uncontacted and unheard which Adiga can ever hope to explore. Is this passage only about Adiga? In fact, the comparison was made of other authors living abroad, educated like Adiga. This passage is not about Adiga. This is a trap. Deliberately, some name or some phrase will be put into the answer options. Here it says that Adiga will never be able to go and see real India. Nowhere it has been said anywhere in the passage so far. Adiga is a genius of this age. There is praise about someone's work. किसी का work का बहुत तारीफ किया है. It does not say the work was of Adiga. The book was from Adiga. And it calls it path-breaking book. Like Wings of Fire was path-breaking book. It encouraged numerous youngsters take up science to follow their dreams. No. B, if you want to argue, we'll go back to that. Definitely not C. D, presenting home country as poverty-stricken place has become a means of getting cheap popularity. Now this is moving away from the whole context of passage. Here we are talking about work done by authors, how India or how their country is represented. It nowhere says it is about popularity or cheap popularity. This sounds very judgmental. Think over this. If you want to argue on A and B, A says, my hunch means personal opinion. My hunch is this is fundamentally an outsider's view, a superficial one. What is the outsider's view? That country is divided between rich and poor. There are extremes to it. That country, you have grotesque people, extremes. This outsider's view. These are the people who are either living outside or have stayed outside. So here, the author is passing his judgment based upon his study of the novel. So guys, out of the given choices, A is the most appropriate one. As I told you, it's an intro session. I have deliberately kept questions to a slightly higher level. तो फिर easy करेंगे मजा नहीं आएगा. A is the answer, guys. It starts from the very first sentence. There is much to comment in this novel, a witty parable. That means the person has read the book. He is giving his own personal opinion. So here it states, it is my hunch that these people who are writing these books have superficial idea or outsider's view. He is saying there is more to India than this wide divide. You will probably confuse between B and C because you see the same name Adiga taken from the passage. Now, whenever you have some time, I want you to find the meaning of the word parable. How can we use this? Invariably, you understand that it's very simple. Ponder is a decent word. So whenever you're solving questions, once you're done with it, वो 2-4 words side में लिख लेने का और type कर लेने का नहीं तो कहीं पे. Sordid is a decent word. Grotesque. Dispossessed. What does it mean? Dispossessed. Good. Moving on to the next one. You can introduce small elements or small piece of new information, but it cannot be drastic change or move away from the passage in completion. In para summary, you should never introduce anything new. Never. So now what I have for you is a 5-sentence para jumble. First thing, how are para jumbles created? Usually a paragraph is taken. A paragraph has several lines. Earlier it used to happen, they used to take the complete paragraph and break it into 4 lines and give you a question. Nowadays, sometimes some information is deleted as well, which is not relevant or which is too wordy, too verbose. It is removed and then it is created. So now in CAT since 2020, we have seen only 4 sentence parajumbles. For you, I have taken 5 sentence, 6 sentence and 4 sentence as well. more sentence, the information is diluted. It becomes slightly easier to work with. So here I want you to observe, try to locate, see, if I say there are sentences A, B, C, D, E, if you can find out which of these sentences is talking about an important idea or a concept. So at least you have identified the starting sentence. If any sentence gives me example, it will never be a starting sentence. Any sentence which uses pronouns he, or if it is a shadow sentence taking main idea from something else, it can never be a starting sentence. In this manner, if you fix what is a starting sentence, maybe 30 to 40% of your work is done. Nowadays in CAT, these are all theta. What is a theta? Type in the answer. You will not have options. You have to get an answer and type that answer. If it is 1 2 3 4, type 1 2 3 4. If it is 4 1 3 2, you type that thing. So go and give it a try. Give it a try. Read from here to here. Sometimes maybe just finding the starting sentence gets half of the job done. A matched pair, even better. Try. Take 1 to 2 minutes and comment your answers. These are introductory sessions. We will have theory in detail. We'll have more sessions specifically for para-jumbles, para-summary, para-computation, fill in the blanks. And again, best of the people I know, accuracy is somewhere around 70-75%, not more. So 1 in 4 questions, even the best of the best people get it incorrect in actual exam. Very good. I have received some answers. Very good. The good is for the effort. बाकी लोग बेटा ट्राई करो, कमेंट योर आंसर्स. Let me give it a try for you. Good. What is being said? To be culturally literate is to possess the basic information needed to thrive in modern world. Nor is it confined. See, when it says nor is it confined, what is? This cannot be the main idea. This cannot be the starting sentence. It is by no means. What is by no means? What is by no means? So these cannot be starting sentences. Here, by looking at these answer options, you can see either A or D is the starting sentence. In exam, you will not have options. So you can observe in this manner and remove what cannot be the main sentence. Let me read. To be culturally literate is to possess basic information needed to thrive in the modern world. So this sounds like an important information. If you want to thrive in the modern world, you must have basic information. What about what? To be culturally literate. nor is it confined to social class, quite the contrary. This is by no means to culture narrowly understood as an acquaintance with the arts. पता नहीं क्या बातें कर रहे हैं, बट मेन आइडिया नहीं है. और ये दोनों नेगेटिव बातें कर रहे हैं. दिस वन टॉक्स पॉजिटिव. If you have plus minus, that is how the information flows. Or you can have plus minus or something of that sort. Movement of information. Cultural literacy constitutes the only sure avenue of opportunity for disadvantaged children, the only reliable way of combating social determinism that now condemns them. The breadth of information is great, extending over major domains of human activity from sports to science. So can I say here it's talking about information. Information. What information? Of that information. Can I say that information and that basic information they need? This sounds like connected statement. A and E sound like connected statements. See, what is D doing? D is telling me that cultural literacy is the sure avenue that is going to be an opportunity to children with disadvantage. Can I say D is elaborating on the point A? A says if you want to thrive in the world, you must have cultural literate, you must be cultural literate or have cultural literacy, which is basic information. So I am saying D will not be a starting statement. It is elaborating more. D is elaborating more on the information in A. D will not be your starting statement. D will not be a starting statement. So again, observe on this part, work on this part. Once I decide on A being the statement or the main idea that to thrive in the modern world, you must be culturally literate, you must have basic information to thrive in the modern world. D is elaborating on that. I do not have A followed by D immediately in any of these answer options. I have either A or I have AC. I'm looking at answer options here. And we have established here, it says this is called shadow information. A shadow repetition of the statement. Basic information, and it says that information is great. So guys, AE is a matched pair. A opens and E continues. Let us give it a shot now. Once I have AE, this one says AE CBD. So let me go in that sequence. AE CBD, see if it makes sense. To be culturally literate is to possess basic information needed to thrive in the modern world. The breadth of that information is great, extending over major domains of human activity from sports to science. It is by no means confined. देखो, यहाँ तक it was positive. Now it has changed the tone. It is by no means confined to culture, as it is narrowly understood as an acquaintance with the art. Culture and art people equate. Then it says B, nor is it confined to one social class. So again, double negative. Double negative makes it a positive. So D is a positive statement. Observe. Cultural literacy constitute and so on, so on, so on. It determines and so on, so on, so on. It is only reliable way to. It is only reliable way of combating social determinism. That now condemns them. Condemns whom? Children of disadvantage, poor children. So guys, out of the given choices, only A. Yes, one person has commented A. Most of you are confusing between option B because statement option B is what? DE. Because D also talks about cultural literacy and E also talks about information. So it is very valid. You might confuse A and D, but D is explaining something. You cannot start a paragraph by explaining something without introducing it. A introduces the idea that you need to be culturally literate if you want to thrive in the modern world. D is explaining on that. Now look at the flow of information. This was positive, then negative. Double negative makes it again positive. It is by no means confined to culture, nor is it confined. So no nor is it confined. Two negatives. The next one has to be a positive statement. ऐसा अगर आप thought process develop करेंगे, yeah. The question is, why cannot the answer be C? Let us read that part. Let us read that one time. It says AC. Here it says you are introducing something. You are saying you need to be culturally literate. You must have basic information to thrive in the world. C negates that. C negates that. That culture is very narrowly defined. People assume it is basically an acquaintance with art. So you're negating statement A with C. So you're going in this manner: A positive, C is opposite of that. Now the statement has to be positive and again negative if you want to go in that manner. So it should have been D if it was to continue. A, C, D. Not there. What is shadowing of the information? What is shadowing of the sentence? Same thing repeated again and again. The first one talks about basic information, and the E says breadth of that information. What one? Basic one. Give it a try. Give it a shot. Again, something based upon 5 sentences. Give it a shot. This one sounds more, I'll say, data based. Give it a shot. What is introducing main idea? Can a sentence, can a paragraph start with meanwhile? Can a paragraph start with meanwhile? Washington responded to the favorable turn in economic news with enthusiasm. The celebrations and high fives up and down Pennsylvania Avenue. The celebration of economic recovery in Washington may be as premature as mission accomplished banner hung on US Abraham Lincoln. See which one represents main idea. When the third quarter GDP showed growth of 7.2% and the monthly unemployment rate dipped to 6%, euphoria gripped US capital. Which one do you see seems to the opening statement? Think in this manner. One of these statements, think chronologically, think in terms of time events. Which one of these will come first and lead to other activities? There are high fives on some avenue. There is celebration all across. Washington is responding favorably. There are celebrations. What is US celebrating? Why are people high-fiving? Which of these sentences leads to the other events? Develop your thought process in this manner. Parajumble, you have to read maybe twice, maybe thrice. Parajumble, you have to read twice. Let me give it a shot. The celebration of economic recovery in Washington may be as premature as the mission accomplished banner hung on the USS Abraham Lincoln to hail the end of Iraq war. Listen to this. First, they start to say Washington is celebrating something, but it is premature. It is not a good thing. And they're giving you an example. It is not a good thing because something had happened. They had celebrated mission accomplished in Iraq war, but did not end. So this one is talking more and more negative. Jaldi celebrate kar rahe ho tum. You are too early to the party. You are celebrating too quick. Before people finish the race, they start celebrating मैं जीत गया, somebody overtakes, something of that nature. It's a cautionary statement. Meanwhile, in the real world, the struggle of families and communities continue unabated. Again, this one also, when it says meanwhile, this one is saying that the whole world is facing crisis, that means it is again something good is happening or something they are doing, celebrating, maybe it is giving a warning. पूरे दुनिया में प्रॉब्लम चल रही है. Washington responded to the favorable turn in economic news. Economic news आएगी, उसके बाद तो favorable होगा. This cannot be the starting statement. Definitely C cannot be there. The celebrations and high fives up and down the Pennsylvania Avenue are not to be found beyond Beltway. मतलब ये खुशी एक ही रीजन में, it is this hope high five is the only in a restricted portion. Now, when the third quarter GDP showed growth of this and monthly unemployment rate dipped to 6%, euphoria gripped US capital. What is US capital? Washington. What is US capital? Washington. ये पता है मेरे को. So I get this idea. E is my opening statement because US capital is in euphoric state. They are happy, so they are responding favorably. So I'm getting this idea. EC is the continuation. E starts, C continues the idea. Now there are two cautionary statements. Maybe it will be either B or it will be C. It will be either B or it will be A after this, because they have got this news, they are celebrating. Now B or A will come into the picture because these are both positives, and then there are cautionary statements. What does A say? The celebration of economic recovery in Washington may be as premature as. So yes, this sounds like more obvious choice. This is A. What does B say? Meanwhile, in the real world, the struggles of family and communities continue unabated. So both A or B could come here. Both A or B could come here. Both A or B could come here. Let us see what is happening further than this. What does D say? The celebrations and high fives up down the Pennsylvania Avenue are not to be seen beyond this point. I've already got my starting statements. If I could work out on my ending statement, I would have my answer, because it looks like ABD and DBA. E talks about the news. C is talking about celebrations. Now there must be caution by B or by A. ऐसा होगा एग्जाम में, you will have to think. Options नहीं होते. That is why I said 1.5 minute दो बार रीड करो, ABCD लगाओ, आगे बढ़ जाओ. Don't worry about parajumples. 2 minutes ऊपर नहीं देना. You have to explain, so I have to take time. Meanwhile, in the real world, the struggle of families continues unabated. Meanwhile means while they are celebrating. So guys, this one makes the most sense. E says अभी news आया है. C says Washington वाले पागल हो गए खुश हो के. जब ये खुश हो के पागल हो गए इस दौरान, meanwhile, outside in the real world, the families are facing difficulties. So ECB. What does D say? These celebrations are only in the Pennsylvania Avenue, not outside that. They don't even go beyond Beltway region. These are premature celebrations. Yes. A sounds like a concluding statement. So I'll go with, in this case, ECBDA. This one. Observe how close were both A and B. B is saying meanwhile they're all celebrating these things. Chanta is not happy. People outside are not happy. Is there something wrong with the network? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, fine. Yeah, got thumbs up. Yeah. E is a starting statement. E and C are matched pair. E and C are in continuation. Yes. The only problem is with A and B. What should come after EC? A or B? B says meanwhile. Meanwhile, you are celebrating. Meanwhile, you are happy about this. Meanwhile, you are having crackers there. Families and communities are struggling outside. Now, this was ancient history. sentence 1 and sentence 6 are fixed. This is called 6-sentence parajumble. You are jumbling only the middle 4. So I have a clear idea what is opening and what is the closing statement. I have to jumble in between. Give it a shot. Give it a try. And comment your answers. As I told you, more sentences means the information is not dense or diluted. These are slightly easier to work with. A thorough knowledge of the path of course to be followed is essential for achieving success. A senior must show the path clearly by laying down the precise expectations of the management in terms of job description, key result areas, and personal targets. They should also light the path by personal example. Advice tendered or help offered must be objectively evaluated for its effectiveness in achieving the desired goal. A display of arrogance and a false sense of self-worth in order to belittle those who come to help you prove dysfunctional. The individuality of each employee must be respected. So this sounds more like what HRs try to tell new employees, or HRs when they try to frame some policy. So I'll put my device on mute for a minute. Give it a try. Let us see your answer. Yeah, this one, this one is pretty straightforward. As I've been saying, more sentences makes it a little easier to work with. You already have the opening and closing statement. A thorough knowledge of the path or course to be followed is essential for achieving success. Senior must show the path. See, this one is again shadowing the information. It talks about the path. Seniors must show the path. So they are continuation. Laying down the precise expectation of management and so on, so on, so on, so on. Personal targets, result areas. Good. They should also light. Who should also light? The seniors. You cannot use they without telling us who is there, who this they refers to, who is the word they for. Advice tendered or help offered must be objectively evaluated, because there are seniors who are going to help you, they're giving you advice. There must be a evaluation of their advice, how effective it is in achieving a desired goal. So everything seems in the Streamlined flow, A, B, C, D, yes. D is the answer, absolutely. Give it a try. 4 sentences are given labeled A, B, C, D. For these 3 sentences need to be arranged in logical order to form a coherent paragraph passage. From the given option, choose the one that does not fit the sequence. Does not fit. These are called odd one out. Usually in odd one out, it rarely happens that the sentence is talking about something completely different. Usually the tone of the sentence is either incorrect or it shows a major shift from the other 3. That is the simpler way to find the odd one out. It will not happen that 3 are talking about rocket science and the 4th talking about marine life. No. The idea in all 4 will be same. The idea will in all 4 will be same. You have to observe either the change in the tone or the language used in the particular sentence will not match with the others. Give it a try. Other 3 will form a paragraph. Read that part. Other 3 sentences need to be arranged in a logical order to form a coherent paragraph or a passage. 4th one does not fit that. Take a minute. Give it a try. 7th question. Give it a shot. Can you also try to arrange the 3 that fit together? Give it a try. According to Amnesty International in August 2012, despite the failure of Mexican authorities to meet human rights conditions set by US Congress as part of Merida Initiative. What is that? We do not know. The US State Department recommended that Congress release the 15% of funds subject to the conditions. So Amnesty International is saying that Mexican authorities are not meeting the requirements of human rights condition, which was part of some agreement. Even if they do not meet, they are not meeting right now, you still release 15% of the funds. Americans must follow the progressive lead of countries such as Uruguay and Bolivia, exploring alternatives to a military response to the war on drugs, which has been an unmitigated failure of violence, corruption, and oppression. So now Americans are being advised that you should follow examples of progressive countries like Uruguay and Bolivia in dealing with in dealing with the drug problem, violence problem, other than military. You don't use military. Basically, this second one is saying these countries don't use military. You also don't use military. It is undeniable that US dishes out extravagant amounts of military aid to Mexico with a scandalous lack of oversight as to how to use it. Do you see very clearly? Amnesty and option C are saying same thing or similar things. Amnesty is saying Mexicans are not following rules which are laid down for which they'll get money, but you give them money. C is saying also the same thing, that US government gives away a lot of money in form of military aid to Mexico without having oversight whether they are following human rights or not. So A and C are connected. This aid, which aid, this aid, konsa aid, what aid is this? This military aid, this congressional aid, this one, 15% of funds. So A, C, and D are connected, guys. The one that is odd one out is B. Because A talks about funding, C talks about funding, D talks about funding. The odd one out is B, Bombay. Try to arrange these ACD to form a coherent paragraph. Try to arrange these ACD to form a coherent paragraph. हाँ, प्रीवियस वाले में ABCD. This one is 𝒉𝒊𝒐𝒏. 𝒉𝒊𝒐𝒏. Yes. Is the answer clear? Is the explanation clear to you? Do you want to repeat any of this? All right. Let us try more. 5 sentences related to a topic are given below. 4 of them can be put together to form a meaningful and coherent paragraph. Identify the odd one out. Choose it as the number. Choose its number as your answer and key it in. This is a theta question. Theta question. You have to simply type either A or B or C or D or E and then simply submit the answer. Go on, give it a try. Try. Slightly on the difficult side, slightly on the higher side. This particular odd one out. The poets in question have, like other poets, various faults. So in this case, there are some poets about which we are talking about. Poets in question, like other poets, have faults. So I am going to compare 2 categories of poets, or at least 2 categories of poets. My understanding of statement A. But they were at best. Who? They. They means maybe either of these categories. They were at best engaged in the task of trying to find verbal equivalent of states of mind and feeling. So a person is trying to praise in statement B, a person is trying to praise that my understanding is at least these people were trying to give names to state of mind and state of feeling. Some poets. And this meant both that they are more mature and that they were better than the later poets of certainly not less literary ability. This means, what means? Something they are doing, something they are wearing, that makes them more mature and they have better clothes than the later poets. So can I say definitely for sure A and C are connected. B also seems connected because B is saying that these people are better. When you say these people are better, you're again comparing. So ABC so far seem connected. We'll come back to this. D. Poetry comes from heart and not from random philosophical concepts. Comes from heart. It is not a permanent necessity that the poets should be interested in philosophy or in any other subjects. So guys, which one seems odd one to you? Yes, why not? You can skip. Yes. In exam, you're saying? So the odd one out is either D or no. Odd one out is either D or E. Understand? Observe that. 4 of them are connected. 4 of them are connected. One of them is odd one out. Observe. First one is talking about poets, and there are 2 kinds of poets. They both have faults. Second one is saying at least these guys are trying to put names to different feelings and words, feelings and state of mind. Third is saying this means both that they are more mature and were better than the later poets of certainly not less literary abilities. Again, there's a comparison. D or E, one of them will be the kicked one, the odd one out. D says poetry comes from heart and not from random philosophical concepts. E says it is not a permanent necessity that poets should be interested in philosophy or in any other subject. D or E. There is no talk about philosophy. There is no talk about uh, other subjects in A, B, and C. There is no talk about philosophy there. D or E. One of them will be out. See which one. ABC talks about comparison between poets, their activities. E also talks about activity of poets. They do not need to be interested in philosophy or any other subject. D talks about the origin of poetry. It says poetry comes from heart and not from some philosophical concepts. D is the odd one out, guys. A, B, C, and E is about A, B, and C. A, B, C, and E are about poets and what they do. Poets and their activities. They wear better clothes. They are better than they're not necessarily any better than the other poets. They both have faults. So either comparing poets or their work. Nowhere it is about origin of poetry. Other than option D, it is nowhere about origin of poetry. Observe. Poetry comes from heart. E also talks about it is not a necessary or necessity that a poet has to be philosophical. In fact, by telling you that the poet does not need to be philosophical, poet can be somebody else or interested in something else. It is again a comparison between kind of people, two kinds of people. So A, B, C, and E are interconnected. D is thrown out. D talks about origin of poetry. इसलिए मैंने हर तरह के सवाल डाले हैं आपके लिए एंड आई हैव टेकन डिसेंट लेवल क्वेश्चंस कि यहां तक आपने और हमने पहुंचना है. 4 sentences labeled A, B, C, D are given in this question. When properly sequenced, they form a coherent paragraph. Decide on the proper order of the sentences and key in this sequence of 4 numbers is your answer. This is the kind of set you can expect or question you can expect now. The answer is A, B, C, D, C, B, D, A, or so on, so on. There are 4 factorial 24 possibilities. As soon as you fix the main idea or the opening sentence, 30%, 40% of your job is done. So go and give it a try. Give it a shot. Woodlands canopy receives most of the sunlight that falls on the trees. Swifts do not confine themselves to woodlands, but hunt wherever there are insects in the air. With their streamlined bodies, swifts are agile flyers, ideally adept to twisting and turning through air as they chase flying insects, the creatures that form their staple diet. Hundreds of thousands of insects fly in sunshine above the canopy, some falling prey to swifts and swallows. So, does it sound like you're right now sitting outside a garden maybe, and you're witnessing some events? What is happening? What description are we getting? We are getting description of insects flying. We are getting how streamlined swifts are to catch insects. Swift is a kind of bird. It can go away wherever it likes to hunt these insects and so on and so forth. So can I say this sounds like the first one is telling us woodlands canopy, some place is there. Woodlands, basically places where there are trees. So once the sunlight starts to fall on these trees, thousands of these insects start flying in the sunshine above the canopy. Can I say this sounds like a chronological sequence, a time-based sequence? Sunlight falls, insects go up, swifts come in, they hunt these, and they don't only hunt here, they hunt wherever they want. So according to me, it sounds like uh, A is where the sunlight comes in, D is where insects fly above, C is where these streamlined body swifts go and hunt them, and B sounds like a closing statement that not only woodlands, they can hunt wherever they want. Now you feel, yeah, very nice. Yes, you feel or you notice these look easy. At least this one looked easy because it's talking about some activity happening and there's a time stamp on it, chronology on it. Sunlight comes down, insects go up, swifts come in, hunt them. Not only here, they can hunt wherever they want or wherever insects are flying. A, D, C, and B. Yes, makes perfect sense. Yes. Confirm if you are getting the same answer, reaching the same logical conclusion. Confirm. Yes. Moving on. Others also participate, guys. 4 sentences labeled A, B, C, D given in this question when properly sequenced form a coherent paragraph. Each sentence is labeled with a number. Decide on the proper sequence or order of the sequence and then key in that sequence. So give it a try. Give it a shot. Try this, guys. Commenter answers. Commenter answers. In the previous example you're talking about, in the previous example, because once the insect starts to fly, statement D, swifts come in. And then what are swifts? Swifts are the birds with streamlined body, they're very agile and so on, so on. So it goes into describing what D is saying. It continues what D is saying. How do these swifts and swallows hunt? That is how D is followed by C. How is D followed by C? In the era of smart world, however, universal basic income is an ineffective instrument which cannot address the potential breakdown of social contract with large swaths of population would be effectively unemployed. नहीं समझा मेरे को. We'll come back to this. In the era of Industrial Revolution, the abolition of child labor, poor laws, and growth of trade unions helped families cope with the pressures of machinized world. We'll come back further, reading further. Growing inequality could be matched by creeping authoritarianism, having more authority, having more restrictions, that is bolstered by technology that is increasingly able to peer into deepest vestiges of our life. कुछ तो बात कर रहा. New institutions emerge which recognize ways in which workers could contribute to and benefit by economic growth when rather than if their jobs are automated. So in all of this, what I feel is there are two discussions going on, that we need to protect the rights of workers. The work is becoming automated, the work or the world is becoming smart, it will lead to unemployment. Something of that nature is going on. How do I find my opening statement? Once I find my opening statement, 30-40% of my work is done. When you read D, new institutions emerge which recognize ways in which workers could contribute to and benefit by economic growth when rather than if the jobs are automated. It says there is need for new institutions to emerge. We need to recognize this. Now, this sounds more like explanation. This sounds more like a solution to something. Growing inequality could be matched by creeping this. So it says there is inequality already, and what is matching it? More and more authority control is matching that. How is it bolstered? How is it getting strengthened, or I'll say getting more, I'll say, authority over working class? That is by increasing to peer into means look into deepest vestiges of our lives. B, in the era of Industrial Revolution, the abolition of child labor, poor laws, and growth of trade unions helped families to cope up with the pressure of machinized work. In era of smart world, however, A will not be my opening statement. D is again saying that we need to have more institutions that recognize, or that they can give us ways in which workers should be able to contribute more to benefit their own economic growth. So I believe either B or C would be our opening statement. B is presenting idea that is giving me a comparison that Industrial Revolution, they abolished child labor, they brought in poor laws, some laws were there, and growth of trade unions. Who are trade unions? What are trade unions? That look after the good of the families of workers. And what are they competing with? They are competing with machinized world. Can I say it is talking about 1, 2, 3 measures which were helping poor people? So D is saying that new things must come in the place of these child labor, poor laws, and unions. See, D is the continuation of B. B is telling पुराने जमाने में ये हुआ करता था. D is telling you, Bombay is saying पुराने जमाने में these three things were there: child labor, poor laws, and trade unions which were looking after poor people, their families. New institutions will emerge, must emerge, which will recognize newer ways in which workers could contribute and benefit from the economic growth, because their jobs are automated, they are losing jobs. So D is talking about skill development, maybe more training, skill development. Now talking about A, C, which one should come after this? Should it be A or should it be C? Let us read that part. In the era of smart world, however, universal basic income is an ineffective instrument which cannot address potential breakdown of social contract when large swaths of population would be effectively unemployed. So this one is saying, आप अगर basic income भी दे दोगे, it is not effective instrument, it is not effective to tackle It cannot address the social contract which has been broken. People have been kicked out. Machines are taking their place. Should A come or should C come? Which of these sounds more like a closing statement? Growing inequality could be matched by creeping so on, so on, so on. C is passing a judgment. C is passing a judgment that inequality is growing और लोग दूर चलते जा रहे हैं because more and more authority is creeping in. How this authority is getting the strength? They are able to peer into lives of these workers. So C sounds like a closing statement, so I'll go with BDAC. B is talking about BDAC. B is talking about what? In earlier days, what used to be the protecting forces. D in the same sentence is saying we need now newer things. We need now newer laws. आपको feeling आ गया होगा that these are slightly higher level questions. चुनने में time लगता है. These are past CAT questions. Most of the content that you will solve in VARC with me will be either past CAT or past ZAT or some exam of that same caliber. BDAC guys, BDAC. How does D continue with A? Let us give that a thought. C is definitely closing argument. C is definitely a closing statement. It's passing a judgment that inequality is growing and so on, so on. And authoritarianism is increasing. And how is it increasing? By using technology and looking into our lives more and more. Maybe talking about Facebook, Google providing data to our employees and all. In the era of smart world, however, universal basic income is the idea that whether you're working or not, you should be getting a minimum amount to support yourself and your family. A lot of European countries are actually giving their residents, their citizens, minimum basic payments. If they are not employed, if they are not able to contribute productively in society, they are given some amount. Even our Nobel Prize winning economist, Mr. Amartya Sen, believes that India should also apply universal basic income. Chalo. Now we have reached what? We have reached RCs. I'm against this idea. I'm against this idea that you read questions first. I'm against this idea, generally speaking. But if you are starting a preparation now, you are not very comfortable or you have not solved too many RCs. By looking at question, you get the idea is or are these questions about main idea, inference. Many times the author will agree with all of these except. So I have to think like author, I will agree with 3 but not 1. So if there are too many except questions, the RC is difficult. So usually I say read the first 2 lines, last 2 lines, you get an idea what is the RC about. Just look at the questions, kind of questions that are there, decide and then start. At this stage, give 1 minute to just reading questions, first 2 lines, last 2 lines. So I have deliberately selected a poem based RC for you guys. I should have put it all in one place so you could have seen passage and questions together. I wish I could have done that. So should I start solving this for you or do you want to give it a shot? Do you want to give it a try? I'll right now post this RC to your group. To your Telegram group, I'll directly post this RC. Do you guys want me to post this in your group so you could read and try? Or do you want me to start answering it, solving it for you? I'll have to look at the file first. I'll have to open your group, BSA Online. Should I post this? Okay. Yes, I'll do that. But don't worry. Give me a second. It's a poem based RC. Give me a second, guys. So look into your Telegram groups, the Telegram group rather, here, posted for you the whole passage along with questions. Give it a try. Take a few minutes, give it a try. A lot of times people try to read about works of different authors in a hope that having knowledge of the works or knowledge of the person will help you in answering the question. This in fact usually backfires. If you know who has written that work, you have a mental image about that person, that person's caste, creed, his or her philosophy. You already have that image, which you'll try to look for in answer options. This is backfire. You need to answer those questions based upon what is evident in front of you. बाहर से आपने कुछ भी अलग से अज्यूम नहीं करना है. Should I start? I'll tell you how I comprehend, how I'll just summarize passages actually in the exam on the rough paper. The poem given below is followed by a set of questions. Choose the most appropriate answer to each question. So it's a poem based RC. I would not exchange the sorrows of my heart for the joys of the multitude, and I would not have the tears that sadness makes to flow from my eye, from my every part turn into laughter. क्या बोल रहा है ये आदमी? This person does not want to exchange sorrows of his heart. This person wants to keep hold of the sorrows that are in his heart. He will not exchange it for what? For joy. He will not exchange the sorrow of his heart for joy. Maybe he is trying to hold on to some memories. We do not know. And I would not have the tears that sadness makes to flow from every part turn into laughter. So again, he's talking about holding his tears. Maybe he enjoys sadness. I do not know. And he would not let it turn into laughter. So the person wants to remain sad. That is my idea. That's what I'm getting so far. I would that my life remain a tear and a smile. A tear to purify my heart and give me understanding of life's secrets and hidden things. A smile to draw me nigh to the sons of my kind and to be a symbol of my glorification of gods. So I'm able to observe information that is connected. I saw here that this person wants his life to remain a tear and a smile, not laughter, smile. Why does he want his life to remain a tear? So that he could have a pure heart or purify his heart and get what? Get understanding of hidden things. Why does he want his life to remain a smile? So that he could attract like-minded people. Listen to this. A smile to draw me nigh to the sons of my kind. Nigh sounds like negative, but we'll keep that in mind. To be a symbol of glorification of gods. The smile represents gods, glory of gods, glory of God. So I've summarized whatever I could understand in those 4 or 5 words, some symbols. A tear to unite me with those of broken heart, a smile to be a sign of my joy in existence. Again, what does that? Air barba tear likhne ke bajaye let me draw tear drop. What does a tear drop represent? Similar people with broken heart. So he wants to be able to identify people like him with broken heart. A smile as a existence of joy and so on. I would rather that I died in yearning and longing than I live weary and despairing. Yearning means, longing means want to achieve something. He wants to die trying to achieve something, yearn for something. Yearn means to want something deeply. So he probably is asking for struggles. He wants to be in perpetual struggle. That I live weary and despairing. So yearning and longing probably for some purpose. He does not want what? He does not want a weary existence and a despairing one. Despairing, sad existence. I want the hunger for love and beauty to be in the depths of my spirit, for I have seen those who are satisfied the most wretched of people. What is he saying? What is he saying? He wants hunger for love and beauty to be part of his life because he knows people who are satisfied are the most wretched people. So people who have everything are not the nice people. People who have everything are not the good people. People who are longing for young or yearning for love and beauty are good people. People who have everything, people who are satisfied are not good people, they're wretched people. I have heard the signs of those in yearning and longing, and it is sweeter than the sweetest melody. So again, he is praising those people who are trying to maybe get love or beauty in their life, or they are yearning or longing. With the evenings coming, the flower folds her petals and sleeps, embracing her longing. He is giving example of longing. Evening comes, that means sun goes in and flowers go back to their original position. So he's talking about embracing, embracing her longing. At morning's approach, she opens her lips to meet the sun's kiss. So again, being poetic about sunrise. Sunrise की बात कर रहा है भाई. Sun's kiss. The life of flower is longing and fulfillment. Longing and fulfillment. What is fulfillment? Longing is वो embrace करना खुद को hug करना. Fulfillment is sun's kiss. So, difference, see, connect. A tear and a smile. The waters of the sea become vapor and rise and come together and are cloud. And the clouds float above the hills and valleys until it meets gentle breeze, then falls weeping. Weeping. बार बार रोने की बातें कर रहा है ये. What is saying? Oceans or other sources have water. Under the sun, that water goes up. It joins together, becomes clouds. These clouds do what? They float over valleys and rivers until it meets a gentle breeze. These clouds, they meet gentle breeze, cold air, and they fall weeping. They fall weeping. Again, comparing with crying, weeping. to the fields and joins the brooks and rivers to return to the sea. So again, through rivers, small tributaries, brooks, it goes back to seas or oceans, its home. So in a manner, this sounds like as if talking about life cycle of water. The life of a cloud is a parting and a meeting. Parting and a meeting. A tear and smile. And so does the spirit become separated from greater spirit to move in the world of matter and pass as clouds over the mountains of sorrow. So basically, this person now is comparing this cloud or this life with a human being. Listen to this. And so does the spirit become separated from the greater spirit and move into the world. So in this case, the kahani is reverse. Water was going up, staying in the cloud, floating over mountains and valleys and coming down. Here, separating from an entity, maybe God, maybe some other thing, the spirit separates from some entity and it comes to the world matter and pass over the mountains of sorrow. So explaining life cycle of a human now, and the plains of joy to meet breeze of death. So death is that breeze. Once the person dies, again the spirit goes back to that higher entity, the God, and return whence it came, from where it came, whence it came, to the ocean of love and beauty, to God. So this sounds like again comparing cloud, movement of water, with life of person. Floating over cloud is like walking over or going over the mounts of sorrow and joy. So that ends our passage. Some 15-20 words I can see, plus minus symbols I can see, broken heart I can see, sorrows and joys, and so on and so forth. Let's read questions. You may have to go back again and again. This is the amount of information you should retain. You cannot retain 500 word ka whole paragraph. You can retain some symbols, some code notation to answer questions. Which of the following options best reflects the theme of the poem? Theme cast poem ki. Which of the following best reflects the theme of the poem? Misery is necessary as it inspires the poor to find new meaning in their lives. Yearning of heart helps unite those in need and opens a greater space for growth and development. Despair and contentment are both necessary for growth of individual self. The challenges and joys that one experiences are necessary part of one's life and of one's destiny. Which one do you see or feel fits all of this? Which one of these options fit the whole passage? Yeah. Misery is necessary as it inspires poor. There is no talk about inspiring poor anywhere in the whole poem. It's about life. It is about life. The yearning of heart helps unite those in need and opens a greater space for growth and development. Growth and development. This is not self-help. The passage or paragraph did not talk about self-help. Answer is C or D. Again, because it's a poem-based passage, answer भी थोड़ा poetic होगा, ऐसा you guys can imagine. C or D. Despair and contentment are both necessary for growth of individual self. Again, is there any talk about growth of an individual? The passage is about sorrow, happiness, finding like-minded people. The person is smiling in a manner so that he could meet more people like himself. The person does not want those tears to turn into laughter, wants to hold on to sorrow. Where is talk about growth anywhere in the whole poem? But in the end, it does talk about returning to that source of beauty and joy and love, God. In a manner, I'll say the last 10 lines are developing the idea that you have to come to this world, go through those sorrows and joys like clouds or mountain. Do not be impacted by it and go back to your source, that is your God. So last 8-10 lines give that religious twist tinge to the whole poem. What does D say? The challenges and joys that one experience are necessary part of the journey of life and of one's destiny. Destiny, I understand, is moving away from the whole passage. But isn't the last part, and return to whence it came, to the ocean of love and be to God, is talking about end of a definite end in a manner destiny, and also meet the breeze of death again. So last two lines again, they are not directly saying anything about destiny, but still nowhere is it about growth. It is about going through life, not being affected by sorrows, joy, challenges. That's like clouds going over mountains and plains. D, guys. D. D. In fact, at one point, the author even says contentment. Contentment means satisfaction is not good. People who are satisfied are the wretched people. देखो मेरे को केवल इतना याद रहा. People who are satisfied, who are content, are not good people. So author is definitely not going to look for contentment. He's looking for always that yearning, that longing to do something. So author will not be talking about people who are content. It's necessary. Contentment is not necessary. So being satisfied is wretched according to author's views. D, guys. D. पोएम बेस्ड आरसी जैट में आता ही आता है. हर 2 साल में एक बार आता ही आता है. Zat has audacity of presenting slightly higher level VARC than CAT. Decision making is also critical reasoning. थोड़ा CAT plus level होता है decision making भी इनका. Zat. Which of the following options best explains why poet feels those who are satisfied are the most wretched? देखो जो आपने चीज पकड़ी थी वो सवाल में आ गई. Such people have achieved satisfaction through deplorable means. They lack longing that brings with it sense of fulfillment and ability to understand secrets of life. They cease to hunger for love and beauty. Their lives no longer have destiny to fulfill, and all happiness no longer forms a part of it. आप लोग बताओ भाई, what will be the answer? See, it simply says, see here, from here you see here up to this point, the author says, I want to stay yearning, I want to stay longing. I do not want to have a weary life. Weary means suspicious, non-trusting life and despairing life. I want hunger for love and beauty to be in it, to be in the depths of my spirit, for I have seen those who are satisfied. People who are satisfied are wretched people. How did they become satisfied does not say. Option 1 says they have achieved satisfaction through deplorable means, something which is not good. You will not praise the means with which they have become satisfied. So nowhere it says means of getting satisfied. This is gone. The lack of longing that brings with it a sense of fulfillment. अरे longing से आपको fulfillment कैसे मिलेगा? When you're longing for something, that means you feel unfulfilled. That's why you're longing. So option B is contradicting itself from beginning to mid. Secrets of life को understand करना was tear and joy. Listen to this. The secrets of life वाला जो part है, here, he wants to have that tear. It purifies his heart and has, or which provides clarity about hidden things in life. Here वो बहुत आगे है. It's 5 lines above the longing, yearning for beauty. So this basically is talking about why are they wretched? Because they cease to have hunger for love and beauty. Because see, he is saying, I want my spirit to always yearn or long for, or have hunger for love and beauty. And in the next line it says people who are satisfied are wretched. So that means these people have already achieved, or they think they have achieved love and beauty. That is why they are satisfied. That is why they are wretched. It is a continuation of that thought. See guys, Their lives no longer have a destiny to fulfill, and all the happiness no longer forms again passing judgment. ऐसा कुछ बोला नहीं कहीं पे भी. Wretched people वाला केवल एक ही जगह पर है. There's only one mention of that here. From here onwards, there's a mention of wretched people. People who are satisfied. In the same breath, in the same sentence, he is saying that I want my spirit to be always hungry for love, for beauty. But I have seen people who are satisfied are the wretched ones. That means they've already achieved, or they think they've achieved hunger and beauty. So they're no longer yearn for it. They are no longer hungry for it. Wretched people. Which of the following options best explains why the poet feels those who are satisfied are the most wretched? अच्छे अच्छे वर्ड्स पकड़ो और उनको सर्च करो whenever you have some time. Which of the following does author attempt to signify while stating example of clouds? Again, life की बात कर रहा था. The cycle of give and take. The fact that all forms complete their life cycle going through series of partings and meetings. The reality that every occurrence has a significance apart from obvious. The coexistence of spiritual and worldly. ये थोड़ा आउट ऑफ कंटेक्स्ट हो गया, डेफिनेट आउट ऑफ कंटेक्स्ट हो गया. स्पिरिचुअल वर्ल्डली तो ये बात ही नहीं करी है. द साइकिल ऑफ गिव एंड टेक. साइकिल ऑफ गिव एंड टेक. नो. Give and take implies a transaction happening. Give and take. Transaction happening. No. Either B or C, guys. The fact that all forms complete their life cycle going through a series of parting and meetings. The reality that every occurrence has significance apart from the obvious. ये significance apart from the obvious, that means ये बोल रहा है कि कोई hidden meaning है हर चीज में. There is hidden meaning to everything other than what is obvious. See here, when it talks about cloud, what does it say? It turns into vapors. It goes away from its source, which is ocean or sea, goes into the cloud, becomes cloud, comes together and becomes cloud, goes over valleys, hills, meets breeze and comes back and goes back to its original source. Leaves, roams around and comes back. Same, in the same way the person says, the poet says, we separate from something, a bigger spirit or entity. We roam around the thing we call life and then we go back to the source. So again, that is it not talking about parting and meeting? Is it not talking about life cycle? Parting and meeting. Parting, the water goes away. Meeting comes back. Human life also, human spirit also moves away from some eternal spirit and goes back to its own source. 13th one, guys. Bombay. Now, honestly, in exam, would you attempt this particular poem-based RC? Would you even consider solving this poem-based RC? No? Yes? Would you consider attempting this particular RC in exam? Okay. Again, this one also I'll post in your group along with questions. Yes. Give me a second. In the next session, I'll arrange these in a better fashion. Don't worry. Give it a shot. I've shared with you the whole passage and 4 or 5 questions based on it. Give it a try. You have roughly 4 or 5 minutes. Give it a shot. Take 6 if you need. Should I start reading? Initially at this stage, you have a look at those questions is perfectly fine. Which of the following is one of the main functions of myth? What is the difference between Hindu and Greek mythology? Who created first story of Greek mythology? What is the role played by theogony in Greek mythology? What does author mean by pantheon of deities? What are the similarities between Olympian gods and human beings? So I have just given a cursory reading to all questions. I did not even go into options. Again, I hope you guys are ready with pen paper. All right. Myth has two main functions. The poet and scholar Robert Graves wrote in 1955. The first is to answer the sort of awkward questions that children ask, such as who made the world? How will it end? Who was the first man? Where do souls go after that? Death. So these questions sound childish to the person called Robert Graves. So myth has two functions: to answer childish questions. You know what those questions are. The second function of myth is justify the existence of social system and account for traditional rites and customs. नहीं समझा मेरे को. The second function of myth is to justify an existing social system. What is social system? The norms or rules we follow in society today. So myth is there to explain those norms or rules, account for traditional rites and customs, like when people die, what do we do? When marriages happen, what do we do? So it is talking about social systems and talking about rights or rights or customs. So myth has two functions. In ancient Greece, the story about gods and goddesses and heroes and monsters were an important part of everyday life. They explained everything from religious rituals to weather and gave meaning to the world people saw around them. So, what example is being used for mythology? Greece or Greek. Those gods they talk about, heroes they talk about, goddess they talk about, was there to explain the world those people saw. Who people? Greek people saw. These gods and heroes, their stories were created to explain the world that man saw around it. In Greek mythology, there is no single original text like Christian Bible or Hindu Vedas that introduces all of the myths, characters, and stories. So they are saying Greek people, their stories are not like Hindus, not like Christians. Why? These have origins. Like Hindus have some text, Vedas, no other thing has been mentioned, so don't imagine other books. And Christians have the Bible. Instead, the earliest Greek myths were part of oral tradition that began in Bronze Age, and their plots and themes unfold gradually in the written literature of the archaic and classical periods. मैं वो नहीं समझा. I understand this part. Their stories were oral tradition; they were not written down. So Greek myths were orally transmitted. They used to tell each other those stories, and their plots and themes gradually were written down when? In classical periods. We'll come back to this some other time. The poet Homer's 8th century BC epic, the Iliad and Odyssey, for example, tell the story of mythical Trojan War as a divine conflict as well as a human one. Whose example is given? Homer. When did he write? In 8th century before Christ. 8th BC, 8th century BC, 800 साल before Christ. What examples? Iliad and Odyssey. What are talking about? Trojan War. It was a conflict among humans as well as gods. That is what it says. For example, they tell a story of mythical Trojan War as divine conflict as well as human one. They do not, however, bother to introduce the gods and goddesses who are their main characters. So they don't tell us, let us say, I don't know if there is any name of this kind. They don't tell us where does Zeus come from, what are his powers, or Athena come from, what are her powers. So gods and goddesses are not introduced, they are simply there. They are among these people, they're in the middle of these people, they're fighting these wars. Since readers and listeners would already have been familiar with them. Why will they be familiar? Because they have been listening to these stories. The book does not talk about origin of gods. The book does not introduce gods because the book assumes Greek बच्चा इसको तो पता होगा, इसने कहानी सुन रखी है. Around 700 BC, see, in terms of before Christ, 800 BC comes before, then comes 700 BC. It's a reverse count. The poet Hesiod's theogony offered the first written cosmogony of or origin story. See, cosmogony, I don't know what that means. So it says or origin story. So it should be something to do with origin of Greek mythology. The theogony tells the story of universe journey from nothingness, chaos, a primeval void, to being, and details an elaborate family tree. So after the story of Homer is published, he does not care, he did not care who are the gods, what are their powers. But 100 years after that, somebody named Hesiod is writing some book, Theogony. Theology is study of ancient history or myths or even religion. Theology. So here he is writing about how the world came from nothing. From nothing, it led to, from nothing, which is chaos, it led to being. Being means existence. And here he has tried to explain the family tree, who comes after whom and who is born through which marriage and so on, so on. So here he is trying to give an elaborate family tree. And these are elements, family tree of elements, gods and goddesses, not just gods, goddesses, but elements as well, who evolve from the chaos and descend from Gaia, earth, Oranos, sky, Pontos, sea, Tartaros, underworld. So basically giving names to different parts. Later Greek writers and artists used and elaborated upon these sources in their own work. What are these sources? Theogony's work, Hesiod's work, Theogony, and Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. So later on, they are working on these building. For instance, mythological figures and events appear in 5th century plays. 5th century play, again, 5th century, somewhere here, 500 years. This is the time of Christ, this is before Christ. What examples are being given? Plays of something, I cannot read, I cannot read, I cannot read. And the lyric poems of Pindar. I have no idea who these people are. Writers such as 2nd century BC Greek mythographer, some person named, I can't even read, of Athens, and 1st century BC Roman historian. So numerous names are being given as we approach the birth of Christ or Christian era, that these people build upon the work done by Homer and Hesiod's Theogony. Even the Roman historian Gaius Julius Hyginus compiled ancient myths and legends for contemporary audience. Contemporary would mean audience of that particular era. At the center of Greek mythology is the pantheon of deities. I read somewhere pantheon of deities in some question, who were said to live on Mount Olympus, the highest mountain in Greece. From their perch, they ruled every aspect of human life. Olympian gods and goddesses look like men and women, though they could change themselves into animals and other things, and were as many myths recounted, and were as many myths recounted. See, and were, यहाँ के बाद explanation है, and were vulnerable to human foibles and passions. These gods, they look like human beings. They could change into other animals if they wanted to. Where are they? They live on Mount Olympus. They are basically a group of gods, pantheon of deities, group of gods. And from there, they ruled every aspect of human life. And they also behaved in a manner, they also had human tendencies. It makes me feel that here the author is saying they look like man, woman, though they could change and so on, so on, and were vulnerable to human foibles and passions. Questions, directly questions. Let us try. Which of the following is one of the main functions of myth? You guys answer. Which of the following is main function of myth? We saw two functions. One was to answer childlike questions. Where do we come from? Who was the first man? What happens when we die? The second was to answer for societal customs or cultural activities. To answer questions that are yet unexplained by science. Science की बात नहीं हुई है. To satisfy curiosity of children about world. To explain rationale behind everyday rituals. To answer unanswerable questions. To answer unanswerable questions. No, no, no. We are not trying to answer questions which are unanswerable. Answer is B or C, and B and C look very close. B and C look very close. To explain the rationale behind everyday rituals. To satisfy curiosity of children about world. B and C are very close, guys. Myth has two main functions, the poet says, and so on and so on. The first is to answer awkward questions that children ask, Yira, such as, example with the aapko. And the second function of myth justify existing social system and account for traditional rights. Traditional rights. Here it says rationale behind everyday rituals. Rituals nahi, rights. Everyday की तो बात ही नहीं कर रहा है. फर्स्ट इज डेफिनेटली 100% क्लियर. बच्चों को आंसर देने के लिए myth is useful. Where do humans come from? Gods created us. Which god? Zeus did. So to answer that, what happens when we die? We go back to the same god. To answer childish questions. Second, please be careful. The second function of myth is to justify an existing social system and account for. See, if at all I was to go for this, there must be two parts to the question, two parts to the answer. You must include social system as well. First one is 100% answering childish questions to satisfy curiosity of children about our world. Yeah, 14th one, 𝒉𝒊𝒐𝒏𝒔𝒕𝒊𝒓𝒂𝒑, guys. You can search these. You can search a couple of lines from this passage. You'll find the whole passage is from cat and match your answers. What is the difference between Hindu and Greek mythology? So Hindu mythology, we have written books, we have description of gods. Greek mythology is oral based. They did not have written word came with Homer, then Hesiodo's Theogony, then other authors build upon their work. So what is the difference in Greek and Hindu mythology? There are texts explaining Hindu mythology, but no such text explaining about Greek mythology. Hindu mythology, all stories and characters can be explained by single text or collection, but that is not true for Greek mythology. Hindu mythology was passed on through written text, but Greek mythology was passed on through oral citation. In Greek mythology, the main characters of the story are not well explained as in Hindu mythology. Somehow, I feel every answer is correct. Every option is correct. Somehow I feel every option is correct. That means I'll have to think about specific words, more generalizations or more specific words. There are texts explaining Hindu mythology but no such text exists about. See, now there are texts. This one is talking about now, right now. There are texts about Hindu mythology, but there are no texts about Greeks. There are texts now. Theogony in 700 BC wrote those texts, wrote how world came into being from nothingness, and he attributed these characteristics of earth, Gaia, Uranus, sky, Pontos sea to these deities or gods. So texts do exist. In Hindu mythology, all stories and characters can be explained by single text or collection, but it is not true about Greek mythology. This is what it says. Yes, no, read this part. In Greek mythology, there is no original text like Christian Bible or Hindu Vedas that introduces all of the myths, characters, and stories. Like in Christian Bible, we know who are the 12 people who followed Christ, who betrayed him, who prosecuted him, who punished him, all those things. So all of them are introduced in one place, one Bible. So this sentence clearly says, listen to this. Greek mythology does not have a single original text. One thing. Second, Hindus have Vedas which introduce all the myths and characters and stories in one place. B makes the most sense. Let us discard or reject C or D. Let's read further. Hindu mythology was passed on through written text, but Greek mythology was passed down through oral recitation. Yes, initially that seems correct. See, here it says there was an oral tradition. Here it says there was oral tradition for Greeks originally, but again it was written down later on. In Greek mythology, the main characters of the story are not as well explained. No, they are. See, once these were written down, later on, whoever built upon their stories, built upon their plays, did so on the shoulders of these characters. So yes, they also have written proof, written text on which they are building. So guys, C and D are gone. B is given to you as it is. In the first reading, I felt all seemed to be correct. All options seem to be correct. But once we go into the depth of it, we see that statement B, option B, is given to us as it is, saying Greeks did not have a single source explaining all their deities, but Hindus always have had in form of Vedas, in which characters have been developed, characters have been explained. Let us try this. Who created the first story of Greek mythology? Who created? No one. See, this person named Homer started writing stories. In his stories, gods and humans were fighting a Trojan War, a divine conflict. Then 100 years after this, some person wrote down stories behind gods, assigned those gods elements of earth, sky, and all those things. But there is no person who started all this. See, if somebody wrote all of this or somebody started all this mythology, that person should be before this Homer fellow. That person should be before Homer. What is being said? Who created the first story of Greek mythology? We do not know. Who created? No. It was passed down orally. We can't determine. From the passage, we have no way to say who is the first author of Greek stories. What is the role played by Theogony in Greek mythology? What he did was he explained. He did a couple of things. He explained the story of how universe started from nothing, void, how it started to being from 0 to 1. So how world went from 0 to 1, from nothing to everything, he defined. And also along with that, he gave an elaborate family tree of these gods and goddesses, gave them properties of elements also. So what role did Theogony play in Greek mythology? It tells the story of how world began. It introduces four main characters of Greek mythology. It helps explain the myth of chaos. ये फालतू बात है. There was no myth of chaos. He simply said from chaos there was creation. It tells the story of earth and sky. No, no, no. It does much more. So answer is either A or B. Answer is either A or B. It introduces four main characters. Are there four main characters? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. But are these the only four main characters? No, there are other gods and goddesses also. There's a proper family tree. Does he introduce only four main characters? No, he gives a complete family tree and uses these four elements to give strength or power to these gods and goddesses who evolved from chaos. And where did they come from? They came from earth, sky, sea, and underworld. These are not gods and goddesses. These are the places they came from. A. It tells the story of how the world began from 0 to 1. How world was created from nothing. From void to chaos. A, guys. What does author mean by pantheon of deities? So here we are talking about this phrase. At center of Greek mythology is the pantheon of deities who were said to live on. Who were plural. Basically gods and goddesses as a group they are talking about. Temple of gods, realm of heroes, place of worship, group of gods. See, pantheon capital, P capital, is nowadays referred to the palace on the top of Mount Olympus. Pantheon, but not of deities. Here pantheon means group. Pantheon, group of deities, group of gods who stayed together and they tried to control. See, read this part. At the center of Greek mythology is the pantheon of deities who were said to live on Mount Olympus, the highest mountain in Greece. From their perch as in where they live, they ruled every aspect of human life. Olympian gods and goddesses looked like men and women, though they could change themselves into animals and other things, and were, as myths recounted. Myths are telling us that these gods were vulnerable to human foibles and passions. Like humans, they got angry. Like humans, they maybe fell in love. Human foibles and passions. What were the similarities between Olympian gods and human beings? Gods looked like humans. They had weaknesses like humans. They were passionate as humans. Gods looked like humans. They had weaknesses like humans. They were passionate like humans. See, when foibles has been mentioned, it is with humans. Human foibles and passions. Passion is not necessarily the human passion, guys. Read that part carefully. There's a twist here. Like I'll say, I'm defining, let us say Einstein. I'm talking about his ability to do this, and something, and play guitar, a violin. I'm talking about Einstein's genius to form equations, to do science stuff, and an afterthought. So एक ऐसे addition लगा दिया and passion. तो बेटा vulnerable to human foibles and passions. तो foibles तक human है, passions not necessarily human. Theoretically सोचना पड़ा. Otherwise, I would have gone with ABC. In this case, I will say I'll go with humans. They did look like human. It says they look like men and women. They could change into other beings, other animals, but they look like humans. So A is definitely there. B says they had weakness like humans, foibles. And were, as myths recounted, vulnerable to human foibles. Vulnerability means weakness, yes. Weak like humans, yes. So I'll go with A and B. Not C. They were passionate as humans. No, that's the afterthought. They were passionate as well. But I believe 99% Janta 99% people will go with ABC. That's a mistake. Only A and B. Only A and B. Let us try this. The passage given below is followed by 4 summaries. Choose the option that best captures the author's position. So you are going to summarize the whole passage. In summary, you must not introduce anything from outside. In summary, you should not take sentences as it is from the passage. Should moral obligation to rescue and aid persons in grave peril felt by a few be enforced by criminal law? Should we follow the lead of a number of European countries and enact bad Samaritan law? Proponents of bad Samaritan laws must overcome at least 3 different sorts of obstacles. First, they must show the laws are morally legitimate in principle. That is the duty to aid others in a proper is a proper candidate for legal enforcement. Second, they must show that this duty to aid can be defined in a way that can be fairly enforced by courts. Third, they must show benefits of the laws are worth the problem, risk, and costs. What is happening here? Let's read one more time. Should I be forced to help someone in grave peril? If somebody is in danger, somebody has just been through accident, somebody is falling off a cliff, should I be legally forced to help that person? Should there be a criminal law if I do not help? That is what is being said. This is an analytical article. We are weighing pros and cons. So should we follow lead of number of European countries and enact bad Samaritan law, where people do not do the right thing? Some of the European countries have rules where you must behave in a way when somebody is in peril. If you do not, you are a bad person, bad Samaritan. Samaritan person is a good person. The proponents of bad Samaritan law must overcome. Proponent, people who are supporting this law, they must overcome at least 3 different obstacles. What are the obstacles? See, when we try to form a law, first of all, why do we need a law? खुद से कोई नहीं कर लेगा. Second, is it necessary, or if somebody does not follow, what punishment to give to that person? Or is it legally possible to enforce these laws? Some things you must answer before you put a law. So what are those things in this paragraph? First, they must show the laws are morally legitimate in principle. That is, the duty to aid others in proper candidate is a proper candidate for legal enforcement. You must first prove that it is possible to legally enforce that. Yes, you have to go and help, and this legitimate, morally, ethically it is correct. Second, they must show that this duty to aid can be defined in a way that can be fairly enforced by courts. That means if A does not happen, B happens, there must be a rule behind that, or courts must have, I'll say, a set of rule or algorithm that they can enforce these laws. Like somebody is fired on, you did not help that person, the person died. So the court must have that fairly defined idea in a way how to proceed in a particular way. Third, they must show that the benefits of the law are worth the problems, risks, and costs. Now, what are the problems you do not know, or the risks you do not know, cost you do not know? It simply says that there will be problems and risk and cost to this law. It must be shown that the law is going to be worth it. So I'm going to summarize all of this in one place and try my best. A number of European countries that have successfully enacted the bad Samaritan laws may serve as model statutes. As an example, bad Samaritan laws may be desirable, but they need to be tested on legal soundness. Everyone agrees that the people ought to aid others. The only debate is whether to have a law on it. There's no talk about debate anywhere. If bad Samaritan laws are found to be legally sound and enforceable, they must be enacted. ये तो जेनरिक बातें कर रहा है कि अगर आपका लीगली फाउंड हुआ तो आपको इनैक्ट करना पड़ेगा. द होल क्वेश्चन इज there are three conditions that it must fulfill to be able to be enacted. So answer is either A, B or C. D तो definitely नहीं है. A number of countries have successfully enacted laws and may serve as the model statutes. This sounds like a particular part of the statement. The first part, it says should we enact, and then it gives an example, and then it goes on to say what proponents have to do. They must answer three things. Those three things are not mentioned in any of these statements. Bad Samaritan laws may be desirable, but they need to be tested for legal soundness. This is one of the statements. See, they must show that there is a morally legitimate principle and it is the duty and it can be legally enforced. So option B is talking or quoting only one. Either you quote all three or you don't quote at all. Option B is talking only about one of them, legal soundness. Everyone agrees that they ought to aid others. Ab kaun hai everyone who agrees? In fact, the whole question is questioning. Should we have such laws or not? Guys, the only one that makes sense is A. That European countries have a template for you on bad Samaritan laws. Usko padho and use that as model statutes. Debate karo. Find it out whether they are legally sound or not, they are enforceable by courts or not, and do these laws outweigh the problems and risk and the costs. Itin evaluate karo. But who has the template? Number of European countries have the template. They already have enforced this. You go study and then apply. There are successfully enacted bad Samaritan laws may serve as a model. May, very good, because you're going to further test them. Guys, A encompasses everything. B only focuses on one part of it. B talks about only one part of it. C says everyone agrees. If everyone already agreed, we will not be testing these laws. People are still not agreeing. Some of them are. So people who agree should answer these three things. C is gone. D says if bad Samaritan laws are found to be legally sound and enforceable, they must be enacted. Must be kaiko? We don't need a law that you and I need to give water to somebody when they need, if you have water. You don't need a law for that. A. Now, what should you do in terms of VARC? What should you do? You should start solving at least on an average every week, I'll say 20 RCs and maybe 25 to 30 other VA based questions, summaries, parajumbles, fill in the blanks, critical reasoning, and keep on working on vocabulary. Do not be bothered about, I'll say, grammar. If you have a word list, word lists are not very effective, but if you have a word list of, let us say, 4,000, 5,000 words, start crossing off the words you are sure of in the first go. Let us say that you have a word list of 4,000 words, you have crossed off, let us say, at least 1,500 words. Now you have 2,500 words. Start repeating those words again and again. Start writing them down on a piece of paper. Recall, repeat, recall, repeat. Vocab can be improved through reading in this manner, copying words, or with word list as well. If you can balance both approaches, that is the best. Read, find good words, maintain notes, revise, repeat, revise, repeat. Other way is pick up a word list and start working on that. The word power made easy has become obsolete. वैसे words नहीं आते अभी CAD में. Maybe CET you can expect such theme based words like how to talk about different kinds of doctors or scientists. अभी नहीं आता CAD में सब चीजें. So words either you learn through reading in this manner or from a word list and keep on repeating. Session लंबा चला because we had a lot of content to cover. That's it from my side. done for tonight. Tomorrow again we'll go back to quant. Closing from our side. Yeah. Good night.